Hi there, my name is Kelly Cody Grimm,
And I'm Max Grimm.
and we are Creative Actors Lab. What we want to do is just talk a little bit about how you can bring creativity into your everyday life. Hey, everybody, it's Kelly.
And Max.
And today we have, as promised in the last episode, our very special guest.
We have a guest.
Yay! That's not family related.
Yeah.
Dean,
Well,
would you
you
like
are
to
actually.
introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Dean Atkinson, and I am from Camilla, Georgia, a small town right near the Florida line, about an hour north of Tallahassee.
Okay, so we originally came to make your acquaintance through Acting Out Studios.
Yes.
It was during COVID, which which there's certainly a lot to say about that subject, but let's just point up some of the positive stuff. During COVID, Acting Out Studios suddenly got this huge influx of people, and we were all meeting through Zoom. And we met a bunch of people we never would have met otherwise, and that was really cool. We got to reach out. We had, literally hundreds of students over the course of time. And what was really good about that is this, there's all these people we never would have met otherwise. And I'll say and particularly for you, Dean, there's been some other people also. It's very gratifying as a teacher to see people come into this and they're really, really green about it. And you see how people evolve and how they grow. And there's been so many people. But I mean, you're kind of one of the ones that's really kind of near and dear to the hearts here, because, you just, then when COVID finally started to subside and we actually had the premiere of everyone's work from Acting Out Studios here in Atlanta at the big theater. We got to all of a sudden meet all these people
In person,
not in the little Zoomy little rectangle thing. And indulge me for a moment here. I think Kelly and I on that day, we during meeting everybody at the theater and at the hotel and afterwards, I think we had to excuse ourselves like 3 times to just go sit in the corner and cry. We were so happy.
Yeah. It was tears of joy.
And particularly, and I remember with you, especially, and we met your wife and we met your family, and we sort of, heard your story. We got to finally meet you in person. It was just like, my God, that's you can't buy situations and interactions and friendships like that. And it's been so really gratifying. And it's like most people, they tend to, come in for a while, then they go away for a while, then they come back, and you sort of see how people have grown and progressed. It really means a lot. It truly does. And that's one thing I would just say to really anybody is that when it comes to acting, it's whether you're on film or on stage or you're on Zoom or whatever, it by its nature, it is a very communal process. You sort of form these communities of these creative people, and you wind up meeting people that you never would have. And then in the process of becoming an actor, you start to discuss your vulnerabilities and what your interests are outside of acting and how all of that sort of colors the art that you do. And we came to discover that just in the course of conversations, one of the it sounds like it's way more than just an interest of ghost hunting.
Well, what's interesting was the monologue you chose was actually Jack Bronson, Ghost Hunter, which is a main character in one of my pilots, and we had actually done a web show called Ghost Wanderers. So it was fun to see you really literally bring Jack to life.
Yeah.
And have fun. And then also, have the background so you knew you didn't stumble over terms like EVP or any of that stuff. You knew exactly what that was. So we didn't have to explain any of that to you. But if you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, or we know, but the people that might be listening a little bit more about what you do and, particularly with the ghost investigations.
Well, let me say one thing also is, and I've started giving this advice out to students a lot lately, is, because acting is such a group thing, that you do need interest outside of acting, that you are not relying on somebody to pick up the phone and say, hey, you got the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to do that. And this, and I can remember when we were in the class and we first started, and you started to talk about this, and Kelly and I looked at each other and went, really?
Yeah.
Speak on about this. So
Yeah.
that being said, please speak on about this.
Jack Bronson's always going to be a special thing to me. One of my favorite. It's always going to be one of my favorite things I've ever done. I had so much fun doing that character, and it was definitely meant to be when you presented me with that. And like I said, I'll never forget that whole experience. And with acting, and then I'll get into the ghost hunting. Ghost hunting something. I'll come back to it, but it's been something that's been there before I started acting. But to condense, kind of a condensed version of some of it, I was going through a very hard time, and had lost my job at the time. I'm a recovering addict and alcoholic, doing well with that, and I'm pretty open with that, and I hope that's okay with y'all to talk about on here.
Absolutely, yes.
And but I had just come through a lot of struggles with that, and was really working hard on sobriety, and had a job I'd been at for a number of years with people I still love. And several years ago, I did a commercial with a friend. I did a band for years and stuff like that, so I have experience of being in front of people, but never really acting. And a buddy of mine who had also played music was working with an advertisement company, and he had an idea, and he said, would you be interested in being a commercial? I was like, well, yeah, man, it sounds fun. And he said, well, okay, how would you feel about having your shirt off in it? And I started laughing, and I said, well, I'd actually prefer it. and he's like, yes, I know you'd be perfect for this. And so it was for like a heating and cooling commercial, and I just had a ball doing it. I was like, man, I would really like to do this again sometime. Well, never got a chance. Fast forward 3 years. And when that happened with the job, I was just on Facebook one day, and I look and I see this thing about acting out studios, and it said, come audition. And, it just kind of, I said, I'm going to try this. Why not? And so I sent in my information, and they told me about the audition process. And so I went, had to do it in front of a bunch of people. Had never done anything like that ever. And I can remember them asking, is this something you're serious about, or is this something that is just kind of you thinking about as a hobby? I said, well, just something for fun. And well, I didn't get a call back that day, and but it was still fun. And a few weeks later, all of a sudden, I saw the same advertisement. I said, okay, I'm gonna try this again. And that particular day, it seemed like the process that day was dragging along, and I almost signed off. And I was like, maybe this is just not something I'm supposed to. I said, no. I said, I signed on here. I'm going to do this. So I went through it, and I had gotten thinking about it. I was like, well, yeah, it is something I would really like to do. Whatever. I mean, I didn't have anything to stop me at the time, so I was like, yeah, it is serious, And I don't know if Tia even remembered me because she had seen so many people, And well, I got a call back that day, and I was like, wow, okay. And met with her again, and then, it went from there. I became part of the team, and doing that whole process was really cool. And I can still remember the first time I met you, Kelly, was when we were learning about how to do our slates. And yeah, I just started learning a lot, and I started applying for everything, and I kind of just learned as I went. And you guys are really what taught me. I had an audition the other night, and it was on Zoom, and I had to watch other people do their auditions right in front of me, and then I had to go, and it was exactly like some of the exercises you guys have done with me. I told my wife, she was like, see, she's like Kelly and Max. I was like, exactly. And she said, she's like, you were able to do this. She's like, you've already had practice. I was like, I know. And so it was, you guys helped me prepare for that stuff. So yeah, I love acting, and I'm hoping it's seeming to get better and better. Commercials have been one of the main things I've been doing, but I've had a few small roles in movies, and just progressing from there. I just enjoy doing it. It doesn't feel like work to me. It feels like fun, and so whenever I get to go do it,
Yeah.
if I can get paid to have fun, then that's the goal.
That is absolutely the attitude you want to go into it with, and not that, oh, and after I finish this, they're going to hand me the Standard Rich and Famous contract, and then I'm set and I have been discovered. And it's not about that. It's about the work. It's like going in, it's doing the work, it's having fun, and it's learning every single time that you go on set. I learn something new every time I go on set. And if you're going with an open mind and willing to absorb stuff, casting directors, they pick up on that. Mm-hmm. And directors will, and they're like, cool. Dean he was so helpful. He gave good, when I gave him notes, he went ahead and he did it. And that's the stuff that really directors and agents and casting directors want to see. Someone who may have studied at the Royal Shakespeare Theater, but is coming in with a major attitude. Yeah. That's nice. They've got some nice street. I mean, unless they're a big name, but even Brian Cox won't come in that way. He'll be like, "Hey, how are you doing? I'm Brian." So.
Yeah, he worked with Laurence Olivier when he was like 14 years old or something like that. I digress, but the guy actually left school to be an actor and wound up working with like Laurence Olivier when he was like 14, 15 years old. He calls him, working with Larry.
Lara. Yeah. Don't want to work with Lara.
But it's October, it's Halloween in a couple of days, or it's Halloween tomorrow, excuse me. You've had some really cool stories about stuff that you've experienced as in ghost hunting. And I just, for me personally, the psychology of it is just fascinating, man. That's one thing about acting also that I love is just the psychology and how do you communicate? Mm-hmm. Communication to me is always just it's so important, and we're just losing our ability to communicate to each other as human beings. I just think that's quite sad, but when you were, but just how you've learned it, or how you brought your communication skills to acting, but just how do you communicate with those who are not in physical form with us anymore?
Yeah, when you've got to ask a ghost a question, how do you like to phrase it, and then how do you know you're getting the responses that you want?
Yeah, I mean, because this subject is so fascinating to me, and we've seen, we've been around ghosts, and I would just love to hear, all of the words of wisdom that you may wish to
share. Well, I'm definitely no expert, but I've been fascinated by it since childhood. Ever since first time I saw Robert Stack talking on Unsolved Mysteries, and that music came in and scared the mess out of me, but it hooked me. And so, like I said, just a fascination. And I think that's where my fascination with horror came in and stuff like that, horror movies. And I put a hold on it for a number of years. I have a very strong religious background. In the South, you get brought up in different church Christian denominations and stuff like that. And I had a guy tell me it was dangerous and stuff, so I kind of put a hold on that, at the time, and I would just be like, man, I really want to do this. And then I talked to some more people, who actually had similar beliefs as me that were very into the paranormal. And I was like, okay, that was just one guy's opinion there. So, and now I don't prescribe to any religion. I'm just a spiritual person. I can find stuff in each one. I've gotten really into meditation and yoga and stuff lately, and that's really been a big part of my journey. But about 10 years ago, my wife, who is just amazing for doing this, she started getting me equipment at Christmas time. I'd get a piece of equipment at birthdays and Christmas. Get a spirit box, and get a REM pod, all these different things. And So I just started going out on my own with it, doing it, and more people would get fascinated with it. And of course, I watched all the shows, and then I learned which ones were kind of more acting than real, and,
Mm-hmm.
and ones that seemed very legit, that kind of thing. And I had a chance to start working with a company that, and I won't name the company just because they're no longer a company, but I am with one that kind of spawned from that, and they're called Night Shift Paranormal. It's brand new. But we, gotten the opportunity to take other people on investigations in some pretty crazy places, places that I saw on TV, and last year I got to go to Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary in Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it housed people like James Earl Ray and a lot of like really, really like terrible, evil people. And then I got to go to the USS North Carolina, which was a decorated battleship in World War II, and had very different experiences at both. Brushy Mountain, to this day, I'll never forget. I'd go back right now because it was so fun, but it was a very different vibe. I saw, I witnessed a girl get her back begin to burn, and we put a light on her and saw scratches appearing on her back, like right in front of our eyes. I heard growls in the dark. And I had several guests kind of laugh at me because I won't repeat what I said when I heard that. But, people ask you, do you get scared? I'm like, yeah, that of course. I was like, that's like half the fun to me is kind of challenging. I kind of learned life lessons doing it because it's like you can be terrified and be afraid, but if you're willing to face it, it's amazing what you can learn and come through. And then the USS North Carolina, it was more of a kind of a fun vibe. I mean, of course, any kind of spirit just talking or saying something can be spooky, but the different types of equipment we use and we're able to communicate with, I just had a great time. And I was thinking about something a while ago. We're talking about the paranormal and acting, but I'd never had a chance to do any improv until I did it with you guys, and that was my favorite part of what we did was the improv, and that has come in such handy and in paranormal investigating, because you get to a place, and if you're taking other people, especially. People don't want to ask questions. They don't want to, nothing's happening. So you got to kind of try to get original on the fly to try to see if you can't make what's happening interesting, or even if you're by yourself, like, what can I do that'll get this spirit's attention? And so, I mean, like when I was at the battleship, I was like, I got an idea. I went on Spotify and pulled up a bunch of 40s music from that era and played it. Then, and there's a device we used a lot, and one that I use now. It's probably my favorite device. It's called a Phasma box, and it's a program on a tablet, and only certain types of tablets can get it. You can't get it on any phones or anything like that, but it's not expensive. But the developer of it put sound banks programmed into it with word banks, different echo and reverb, and that's all you can really do to explain it. Somehow spirits are able to manipulate this, and I have heard the most intelligent responses come out of this thing. And perfect example, and I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but
you're fine. That's what we do.
Yeah. I was using the Phasma a few months ago, and a friend asked me to come to her grandparents' house. Grandparents are both passed away, and they're, in particular in the South Georgia, just story after story in some of these places of terrible things. All the deep-seated racism and stuff like that. And so she was just talking about how her son had begun to see things. Her son had begun to see different, what we would call shadow figures. And it was terrifying her son. And she wanted me to come check it out. So I did. I went to go check the house out. And it's definitely haunted. We started getting some stuff with the boxes, and the thing that stood out is we were using the Phasma box, and we heard what sounded like an African American man talking, and we were like, "Well, can you give us your name?" And he said, "William." And I was like, "Well, do you know William?" And she said, "I don't know who that would be." Now, so we went on. Some of the people that this particular person's granddad knew had stories of being involved with Klan and awful things like that. So we were getting, we had white sheets came through was one of the things that was told to us. So we knew we were dealing with some things that had happened there, but we still didn't know about William. And right after we heard William, we began to hear screaming coming over this box, and it was blood curdling. It was really scary, and so we kind of wrapped it up. That night after that, it was getting close to the end, and she calls me the next day, or she messages me with all this ancestry information, and she started calling family, and she said, "Well, I found out that my granddad's house had been moved from a different town nearby." And year so and so, and the original owner, his name was William, and so William Batts, I believe, and so there was our William that we didn't know where the name came from, and he was an African American. So it was an African American man, and his wife had the house. His name was William, and his wife shot and killed him in the house, and so there it was. We heard William tell us his name, and then we heard the screaming, and it just confirmed everything that she had no idea before. And we found it out investigating. And that was one of the times that I was like, okay, this particular piece of equipment here has got some validity to it. Because I always try to find the rational side with paranormal investigation, because your mind can do crazy things to you. And
Oh, yes.
You can encounter people who are just want something to happen so bad that, I've had to tell a lot of people what
Everybody knows, in the middle of telling the story, all the power in Dean's house just went out.
So we're not going to credit that to anything supernatural other than, well, gosh darn.
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny timing though.
Yeah.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, there you go. But so yeah, like I learned that I've learned several things that it's very legit stuff. But you cannot, like I said, you can also, your mind can mess with you, and I always like to try to make sure it's the real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that just in some of my experiences. The first thing I try to do is debunk myself. I was in a place, it was for a luncheon, and it was this wedding facility in Norcross, but it had kind of a history.
Oh,
I went into the bathroom, and I felt these things seem to happen around bathrooms for me just trying to get there. But I felt like this presence on my chest, and it literally pushed me against the bathroom door. And I'm like going, okay, but it felt like pushing. I'm looking around like, could I have tripped? Could I have tripped? But I'm like feeling that tight feeling in the back that I get in the back of my head when these things happen. And I just kind of said, I respect you. I'm sorry that you're angry about whatever it is that you're angry about, but I just want to leave. And I did. Never really found out what the situation was. But for me personally, that was my first thing, is like, was I just being clumsy? Did I just trip? But it didn't feel like a trip forward. It felt like being pushed back. And but I think whenever you're doing any kind of paranormal investigation, that's most of the time you're trying, let me debunk everything, so that as I'm telling this story, people will believe it because I've already taken out, it's like good science.
Right.
What's my hypothesis? And then let me take out all the extraneous things that could play into that.
But
I've never been touched.
Oh, okay.
Several people who have, like I was talking about the scratches earlier, and I kind of want to experience that. And I say that now. After it happens, I might not want to. I mean, I'm not saying I want to. I'm not saying I want to be pushed downstairs or anything.
Yeah,
but
no.
But that's incredible. My wife, she's been touched a few times, and that's something else I've noticed, is that the investigations I do, a lot of times I'll just tell the women who are present, why don't you start talking? Because I've noticed that women seem to get a lot more evidence sometimes.
Well, I think, maybe it's also, intuitiveness. I'm not going to say men aren't, but women just, they do talk about, women's intuition, but you do kind of feel like the energy's really off in here. And I mean, men obviously can pick up on that. I know you're very sensitive that way too, but that has been an observation that I've made in the past, is like, we just, when you get women together, they'll sit there and go, that didn't quite feel, did you feel that? Yeah, I felt that. Where, the other guys might go, yeah, I don't pick up on anything like that. And you're like, okay.
Well, I mean, women are, they're the portals that bring life into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it would kind of make sense that, that the veil would be thinner, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating to me, because I think when it comes to acting as well, and for just reaching out to the spirit world, and whoever is listening to this, I don't know if you think this is the real deal or it's a bunch of BS or whatever, but I think one parallel also that kind of goes along with this is there's a vulnerability that you sort of have to have when you are communicating as an actor, or reaching out into the other realms, shall we say, that I think you've got to achieve a balance between the vulnerability and protecting yourself. And that's where I think a lot of people get really kind of uncomfortable with that sort of a thing, because I remember hearing Anthony Hopkins one time, somebody asked, it's like, how do you protect yourself? And he's like, there's sometimes you don't want to. And it becomes, there's like a strength in vulnerability.
And, when you've talked about seeing how some of them, like, just wanting to go, come on, ghost, I'm not afraid of you. And they're trying so hard to get a reaction. And I'm like, you've got to respect RSPCT.
Yeah.
Find out what it means to them. You're walking into somebody's home and basically berating them. And you think you're going to get a positive outcome. It's not going to be that way. So you always have to be respectful. And at least, you've had way more experience than me, but I've at least found in my limited experience, if you acknowledge, you say, I'm sorry. If you're feeling angry, I'm just here to do X, and I respect you for where you're coming from. And then you leave. I mean, that's a good tactic to use with humans as well.
Yeah.
but particularly with what I found is they'll go, okay, nice lady, we're backing off, and you go.
Right. I mean, and I think too, regardless of what our beliefs are when it comes to, the spiritual, religion, whatever, I mean, none of us really know what's on that other side.
Right.
And, and there are, I mean, of course, people with near-death experiences and things like that, but all that can differ. Those things seem to differ for a lot of people depending on what their upbringing was. And I've just, with me, I'm like you, I feel like I should try to treat people on that side like I would on this side. And
Absolutely.
Going into like a place like Brushy Mountain, and I was telling somebody, and I've heard this and I've seen it, it seems like hospitals and prisons are probably some of your most haunted places, and which it would be pretty common considering the tragedy, the death, and then even, good things as well. But like hospital with life being born, you know, that type of energy leaves an imprint as well. And when I was in a place like Brushy Mountain, I made sure I told him, I was like, listen, I'm not here trying to put you down or judge you for anything you may or may not have done while you were here. And when we got some of the most of our results was a part where we line people up. We would line one person, each person had a jail cell there. We were in D block where the most violent offenders were at, and with no electricity. So we're in the dark, and you have your back to an open jail cell, and you say, and we're like, okay, we're going to play push or pull. For yes, push the person. For no, pull them. And, you know, if the people are with it. And everybody's like, yeah. And so one of the things we did is we weren't using any equipment at this part. We were just using our senses. And so one of the things I did was just was telling people to imagine what it would be like there in that place at nighttime when the lights were out, when prisoners were there, and how they knew, because when they were at this place, unless they escaped, they weren't going to get to go back home. This was all life sentence. This, you know, and I started talking about the loneliness and you know, just trying to empathize with how they must have felt. And that's when all of a sudden activity just started kicking up. You know, you'd hear somebody, I just got pulled or something. And then that's when, you know, I hear something beside me growl, and, you know, all those things started picking up, and it really spiked the activity. And then I don't think the girl would have gotten scratched that got scratched had her mom, who was standing there next to her, said, well, you can come touch my daughter. And I was like, oh
boy.
No.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
That might not be the best idea.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they took her on it. So
yeah.
It's
that is
crazy
all
how
kinds of no bueno.
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Wow. So did you want to talk about your cold bear survey?
So, actually, you know, I will say one of these, I would love to go out on one of these, one of these expeditions with you someday.
I would love.
Yeah, that's, let us please stay in touch with all this. I just, you know, this is a conversation that, you know, just that, as I said, you're one of a few people that, you know, became students of ours, and then in the course of that you start learning more about the person, and it's just like, oh wow. I mean, there's I believe you met Brandon and Dana. That's two people I really want to get on here also, and just because what just happened in the course of, you know, let me show you how this acting game works and how this acting technique goes and all that stuff. And all of a sudden you start, you know, again, you start meeting these people you never would have met otherwise. And at some point or other, it's like, wait a minute, you do what? Dude, talk more about that. But no, just, you know, dude, thank you. I mean, so much for your time. And before we let you go, this is something I have wanted. I've started doing this, as a director's exercise, but just this is something I've just started doing recently. But okay, there's an actor's exercise. It's called Hot Seat, and the way that it goes is that you, when you're in the process of rehearsing and forming your character, you basically get up on stage, sit in a chair, and everybody can ask your character all manner of questions about the character, and you sort of have to make it up on the fly. Just like in improv, it's like, you know, don't think, just let it go. And I heard about the I believe it's the Steppenwolf Theater Company started doing this hot seat exercise, but they actually were using a thing called Proust's questionnaire. And it was a thing that Marcel Proust, he didn't invent it, but he sort of came across it and really expanded upon it. And he had this list of questions, and it's really more than we can do here. But I found Stephen Colbert actually has got his condensed version of it. And I'd just like to ask you a couple of questions, if I may. So yeah, this is when it's done in the acting format is that you're doing it as your character, but just please answer as
As
Dean.
Dean, yes.
So anyway, okay, number one, what is the best sandwich?
A Reuben.
Oh, oh,
Okay.
oh, okay, you're a man after my own heart right there. Oh yeah. What is the one thing you own that you should really throw out?
Um, some underwear that has holes in it.
Okay.
Okay. Totally honest and
Yeah,
understandable.
me too.
Yep. Yep.
What is the scariest animal?
The scariest animal to me, I think to me, an alligator freaks me out for some.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You're talking to two
Yeah.
Floridians, so yeah.
Apples or oranges?
I do like them both.
Me too.
The end of the day, I would have oranges.
Oranges.
Oranges, okay. Here's a good one for you. And I saw this, I'm like, okay, this has got Dean written all over it. What do you think happens when we die?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I have to say, that has changed so much. Oh man. Personally, I think it's up to the end of it depends on the person. And
Mhm.
I kind of think where I'm at right now, I think we may have a little more of a choice to kind of stick around if we like, or to move on to something different.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
I don't believe in this eternal hell where people are going to go be tortured and
Right.
stuff like that. I don't believe in. Honestly, I don't. Especially the more I've investigated in the paranormal world and people that I've met and know who are mediums and intuitives and stuff, they've never encountered it either. So I believe that you can become a better person in the next life, if that makes any
Definitely.
sense.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
actually
definitely.
that's one of the reasons I think I'm here. Okay. Favorite action movie?
that is tough. Favorite action movie. For just sheer action, I'm going to say Bloodsport with Van Damme back in the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite smell?
Really good, like good quality coffee being brewed.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my same answer.
And
Okay.
what's funny is if you watch a show like Ghosts, that's what they pick up on is like, could you make us this? They can't eat it, but they can smell it. So, like, ooh, they're making coffee or cookies or things like that.
Okay.
I've
Least favorite smell.
You have heard that too, yeah.
I really hate the smell of gasoline. Some people like it. I hate it.
No.
Yeah, for me it's acetone, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Exercise. Worth it?
For sure. Now I'm not saying I'm good at doing it, but it is work.
Okay. Here's one for you. Flat or sparkling?
Flat or sparkly?
Mm-hmm.
Flat.
Okay.
Well,
Me too. Me too. Most used app on your phone?
Most used app on my phone would have to be Facebook.
Okay. Okay. This is a good one. You get one song to listen to for the rest of your life. What is it?
One for the rest of my life. The first thing that comes to my mind, I'm gonna have to say "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" by Pink Floyd.
Oh, good one. Good one.
Yeah, that's like I've often told people, if I could only listen to one band the rest of my life, that they would probably be my top choice.
That's a good one. That's for me. It's "Thank You" by Led Zeppelin.
Oh, that's a good one.
Anyway, okay. What number am I thinking of?
13.
No.
Okay. What number was it?
7.
7. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And last one here. Describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
Wow, that's deep.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I know, right?
Love, laughter,
Mhm.
food,
Mhm.
coffee, ghosts.
All right, there you go.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you guys tuning in, and keep in mind that you can catch us on our social media, Creative Actors Lab on Instagram and Facebook, and by the same name on YouTube. And for more on what we do, you can go to our website,
creativeactorslab.com, all one word. Thank you for listening. Stay curious, makeart.org. Much love until next time.